wrote a book about it. You talked about it right there, you know, and you're so relatable. Could you just tell, in hindsight, you know, what you wish you had done that would have made things easier in your own personal case?
Start the line of communication. And there's never a better opportunity than the holidays that are right in front of us. It's not a big surprise why they choose November as National Caregivers Month. Thanksgiving, there are more families that get together during Thanksgiving than any other holiday of the year. And my advice is how you try to start this conversation. Because let's just all like call it as it is. It's not an easy conversation. I mean, we're doing it right now. Did we learn the lesson with my mom? Yes. Is it a tough thing that we're now trying to bring it up with my husband's parents who are 80? You know, parents don't want to be reminded of, you know, how they might have less faculties or their life will be somehow compromised. And it's not a comfortable transition when you kind of become the parent to your parent. It's the most unnatural life transition. So everybody just avoids it. But if you can start that conversation not with, all right, look, we got to talk about this because I'm the one that's going to have to pay for it all and do it all.
What's a different tone? What are different words?
You will never get anywhere with that conversation. Start a conversation with your parents about what they envision their later decades to be like and what they want it to look like. I also highly recommend getting out a video camera and ask them questions about what life was like when they were young. This is going to be the most priceless possession you'll ever own. Ask them what life was like back when they were a child. Were they in a one-room schoolhouse? You know, what was life like when your parents met? What was life like when you were born? What were you like? And when you're going down this road, make sure you get all the health details of who had, polyps and who died of colon cancer. Get your incredible detailed medical history.
So mix that in with all the good stuff?
Because you'll get it as long as you take them down memory lane. Because the older you get, the more you connect with your past. You might not remember what you had for lunch, but you can remember a lot about your young life. And once you get them on that continuum, it's much easier to say, all right, and how about the coming years? What do you want the coming years to look like, Mom and or Dad? And get them to speak about it in those terms. I don't care if it's not realistic. You need to hear that. And that can be a first step. And then I think you need to get siblings, adult siblings together without the parents so that everybody will actually say what they really think and what they're really willing to do and have that discussion and exactly set it up as a business meeting with an agenda and try to find out what people's skill sets are and their availability and their willingness. And then you go back with the parents. And I know you don't want to ask parents, have you actually saved enough money for your later years? But if you don't, you will end up where a lot of American families are today. We have millions of American families today dipping into their own retirement funds, money they've put away in order to take care of their parents. Because if I don't, then what else will happen? I mean, I know what it's like. I wonder what would have happened to my mother if I wasn't spending $60,000, $70,000 a year for the last 20 years. And you have to ask this question. If you don't, it will come back to haunt you. There's no way you can plan your finances, your own savings, and your future if you aren't asking the questions as to whether your parents have adequately saved. And just remember, they might think they adequately saved, but they might not also have had the idea that they were going to live an extra 10 or 20 years, so it might not be realistic. And then they may not have saved and they're just embarrassed and they're afraid to tell you. So it is incumbent upon us to find ways to help them down that path. And then you need to start that list. You need a durable power of attorney for medical and legal. You need a HIPAA release, absolutely. And by the way, you need this on your spouse. And in some states, as soon as you're 18, somebody in your family should have these things. You need an advanced health care directive, which is otherwise known as a living will. And a lot of older people say, well, I've made a will, and a will's great, so that everybody knows where everything's going to go after they're gone. But what about the 15 or 20 years before that? That's really what the living will puts forth, all of their end-of-life issues. Do you want to make the decision whether to put your parent on a feeding tube or a respirator? I mean, these are...
Have them do it, right?
And have them do it so that I was so happy at least that I did the advanced healthcare directive.
Right.
So I knew when my mom was at the end, I knew what she wanted.